Welcome back to Everyday English Podcast, where we practice real conversations for your daily life. Today, we are going to open a nightmare piece of mail that can ruin relationships. Imagine this. You come home after a long day, you look at the kitchen table, and there is the monthly utility bill. You open it and your heart sinks. It is $300. You know immediately it is because your roommate leaves the heater running on maximum all day while no one is home.
I have to admit, I used to be that terrible roommate. I loved a warm apartment, and I caused a massive fight because I did not realize how fast those bills run up.
By the end of this episode, you will learn the exact English phrases to negotiate household costs, set boundaries politely, and talk about energy efficiency like a native speaker.
This is such an important topic because moving in with someone is a huge step. Whether it's a roommate you found online, a friend from university, or even your romantic partner, sharing a living space means sharing the costs, and money is always a sensitive topic.
Exactly. When we are learning a new language, we often learn the vocabulary for objects like window, door, heater, thermostat, but textbooks rarely teach us how to handle the social friction that happens inside a house. How do you tell someone they're spending too much of your money without starting a screaming match?
It requires diplomacy. You have to be polite, but you also have to be very firm.
So, to give you the perfect examples of how to do this, we are going to act out a short conversation. We are going to pretend that we are roommates. I am going to play the role of the stressed, cost-conscious roommate who just opened the mail.
And I will play the role of the comfort-seeking roommate who just wants to feel warm and cozy. Listen closely to the words we use to negotiate our conflict.
Here we go. Sarah, we need to talk. I just opened the mail and the utility bill arrived for this month.
Oh, is it bad? It is freezing in here right now, by the way. Can I turn up the heat?
Please do not touch that thermostat. You do not realize how much this costs. The bill is completely through the roof. It's $300. You shouldn't leave the central heating running all day when we are both at work.
Are you serious? But I hate coming home to a chilly apartment. I can almost see my breath right now. I'm going to catch a cold if we just sit here freezing. What is the point of having central heating if we cannot use it?
The point is that we have to pay for it. I understand you want to be comfortable, but we need to cut back on this immediately. If we do not change our habits, I will not be able to split the bill with you evenly next month. It's just too expensive.
When I was younger, my parents had a huge furnace in the center of the house. We never worried about the cold. We never caught a cold either. I just want to relax after a long day at the office.
I want you to relax too, but put on a sweater. When I was young, my parents made us wear 3 layers of clothes indoors to save money. We have to be responsible. We can turn it on for an hour in the evening, but we must turn it off when we leave the house.
You're right. It is a waste of money to heat an empty apartment. I should be grateful we even have a nice place to live. I'll put on a sweater and we can compromise.
Thank you. Let's make a plan to cut back this week.
All right. Stepping out of the role play. That was tense, but it's a conversation that happens in thousands of apartments every single winter.
It really does. Let's break down the language we just used so you can use it in your own life. Sarah, the very first thing I mentioned in that argument was the utility bill. Let's explain what that means.
A utility bill is a very specific type of invoice. The word utility refers to the basic services that a house or an apartment needs to function. This usually means electricity, water, and natural gas. Sometimes it includes trash collection or internet, but mostly when people say utilities, they mean power and water.
Exactly. It's very different from a restaurant bill or a medical bill. When you rent an apartment, you need to ask the landlord a very important question. Are utilities included in the rent?
Right. If utilities are included, you pay one flat price every month and you don't have to worry. But if utilities are not included, you receive a separate utility bill every month based on exactly how much energy you used.
And in our role play, that bill was a disaster. I used an idiom to describe how high the price was. I said the bill was through the roof.
Through the roof. This is a highly visual idiom. Imagine a house. The roof is the very top part of the house that covers it and protects it from the rain. If something goes through the roof, it explodes upward past the highest possible point.
We use this phrase whenever a number, a price, or level goes dangerously high very quickly. You can say, the cost of groceries is going through the roof, or inflation is through the roof this year.
In our story, the utility bill was through the roof. It was unexpectedly, shockingly high, and the reason for this was my bad habit. Tom, you accused me of leaving it running.
Yes, to leave something running. This is a phrasal verb that is incredibly useful for everyday life. When we turn on a machine, an engine, or a system, we say that it is running. The refrigerator is running, the car engine is running, the heater is running.
But if you walk away from that machine and you do not turn it off, you leave it running. You are allowing it to continue working when nobody is using it.
This is a classic source of domestic conflict. You can leave the water running in the sink, which wastes water. You can leave the television running while you sleep, which wastes electricity. In our scenario, you left the central heating running all day while we were at the office.
It is a terrible habit because it burns money, and that leads directly to the core financial problem of living with a roommate. You threatened that you would not be able to split the bill with me.
Let's talk about splitting the bill. To split something means to divide it into parts. When you live with someone, you usually split the bills evenly. That means 50-50. If the bill is $100, you pay $50 and I pay $50.
But splitting the bill is not just for apartments. We use this phrase constantly at restaurants. If you go out to dinner with 4 friends, at the end of the meal, someone will ask, "How should we split the bill?"
And just like with roommates, restaurant bills can cause friction. We all have that one friend who orders an expensive steak and 3 drinks and then suggests that everyone split the bill evenly, even though you only had a small salad.
That is the worst. In a housing situation, if one roommate is using all the electricity for their gaming computer and their personal heater, splitting the bill evenly starts to feel very unfair. That is why you demanded that we cut back on our energy use.
To cut back on something, this is another essential phrasal verb. To cut back on means to reduce the amount of something that you use, buy, or consume.
The contrast here is important. Cutting back on something does not mean quitting it completely. If you're drinking too much coffee and you want to stop completely, you give up coffee. But if you just want to drink 1 cup a day instead of 5, you cut back on coffee.
Exactly. I did not tell you that we could never use the heater again. I said we need to cut back on it. We need to reduce our usage so the utility bill does not go through the roof next month.
Let's pause for a moment. Think about your current living situation. Do you live alone, with family, or with roommates? Who controls the temperature in your house? And if you have roommates, how do you split the bills? Is it 50-50 or does one person pay more?
It's a great mental exercise to try and describe your own living situation using these words. Now, Sarah, beyond just the vocabulary, I want to talk about the tone of our argument. The grammar we used was very deliberate, because navigating a conflict requires careful language.
Yes, let's look at the grammar of obligation and necessity. When people argue in their second language, they often sound much more aggressive than they intend to.
This happens because beginners rely heavily on the word must. If a beginner wants their roommate to turn off the heater, they might say, "You must turn off the heater. You must pay this bill."
Grammatically, that is correct, but socially, it sounds terrible. It sounds like a police officer giving an absolute order. If you talk to your roommate or your partner like that, they will instantly become defensive.
To soften the blow and sound more natural, we use different structures. In the dialogue, I said, "We have to pay for it." Have to is much more common than must in spoken English. It expresses a strong necessity, but it feels like a practical reality rather than a personal command.
Notice also how Tom used the pronoun we. She said, "We need to cut back." She didn't say, "You need to cut back." By saying we, she makes it a shared household problem. We are a team and we have a problem to solve together. It removes the personal attack.
When I did address your specific behavior, I used shouldn't. I said you shouldn't leave it running all day. Should and shouldn't are used for strong advice. It communicates that your action is a bad idea, but it still leaves you with a choice. It is much softer than saying do not leave it running.
And if you want to be incredibly polite, you can use a hypothetical structure. You can say, it would be better if we turned it off before work. It would be better if. This is the ultimate diplomatic phrasing. It suggests a solution without making a demand.
So, to review the diplomacy of obligation, try to avoid using must in personal arguments. Use have to for shared realities. Use we need to build a team mentality. And use shouldn't for pointing out bad habits.
This brings up a lot of memories for me. Moving to a new country and figuring out the heating systems and the billing systems is a huge cultural shock. When I moved from a very warm climate to a city with freezing winters, I had no idea how expensive central heating was.
Did you leave it running all day?
I absolutely did. I thought it was like a refrigerator. You just turn it on when you move in and you leave it running forever. I kept the apartment so warm that I was walking around in a t-shirt and shorts in the middle of January. When the first utility bill arrived, I almost fainted. It was higher than my rent.
That is a painful lesson to learn, but it is a very common generational difference too. When I was young, central heating was a luxury. My parents were incredibly strict about the thermostat. If I complained that it was chilly in the living room, my father would just look at me and say, "Put on a sweater."
My parents were the exact same way. They grew up with a furnace, which is a large, heavy machine that burns wood or coal. You had to physically carry fuel to it. So heat was precious. You did not waste it. Now we have modern thermostats. You just push a button and hot air comes out of the walls. Because it is invisible, it is very easy to forget that it costs money.
But there is a health aspect to this as well. We cannot just turn off the heating completely to save money. If an apartment gets too cold and damp, mold can grow on the walls. And as you mentioned in the role play, living in a freezing environment lowers your immune system. You can easily catch a cold.
Catch a cold. That is an interesting phrase. We don't say we receive a cold or we take a cold. We catch it, like a baseball. A cold is a minor viral infection with a runny nose and a cough. If the apartment is chilly and you are shivering, your body is stressed and you are more likely to catch a cold. So there has to be a balance between saving money and taking care of your health.
Finding that balance is part of living your daily life in English. And if you are enjoying this real-life English practice, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss our daily conversations. We love breaking down these everyday problems with you.
Now, Tom, let's zoom out from the kitchen table. The argument about the utility bill is a personal conflict, but it is actually connected to a massive global issue.
That is true. Let's move into our deep dive for today. The reason utility bills are causing so much stress for roommates and families everywhere is because of the global rising cost of living.
Over the past few years, the price of natural resources has fluctuated wildly. Fluctuated means to go up and down unpredictably. Because of global supply chain issues and economic shifts, the cost to generate electricity or supply gas has increased significantly. When the energy companies pay more, they pass that cost directly to the consumer. That is why everyone's bills are going through the roof.
This economic pressure has completely changed how we look at real estate and housing. 10 or 20 years ago, people looked at the aesthetic of an apartment. Does it have nice floors? Is the kitchen pretty? Now, smart renters look at energy efficiency.
Energy efficiency is a huge vocabulary term. If a machine or building is energy efficient, it uses very little power to achieve its goal. In housing, energy efficiency is all about insulation.
Insulation refers to the materials packed inside the walls and the roof of a building to stop heat from escaping. Traditional, older homes are notoriously drafty. A draft is a current of cold air that sneaks in through small cracks around windows and doors.
If you live in a drafty apartment, you can leave the heater running all day, but the hot air just escapes outside. You're essentially paying to heat the neighborhood. Modern buildings solve this with heavy insulation and double-glazed windows.
Double-glazed windows have 2 layers of glass with a pocket of trapped air between them. This creates a thermal barrier. It keeps the freezing air outside and the warm air inside. A well-insulated apartment might stay warm for hours even after you turn the central heating off.
This brings us to the most important reason why we should not leave the heater running when we are not home. It's not just about avoiding a fight with your roommate over the utility bill. It's about environmental consciousness and reducing our carbon footprint.
Your carbon footprint is a measurement of how much carbon dioxide your daily activities release into the atmosphere. Every time we turn on a light switch, take a long hot shower, or push the thermostat up to maximum, we're demanding energy. And in most parts of the world, that energy is still generated by burning fossil fuels like coal or natural gas.
Residential heating is one of the largest contributors to global energy consumption. When millions of people demand high heat at the exact same time, power plants have to burn massive amounts of fuel. This releases greenhouse gases, which trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere and drive climate change.
This means that the small domestic argument between two roommates actually has global implications. When you and your roommate agree to put on a sweater instead of turning up the heat, you are not just splitting a smaller bill, you are actively reducing the demand on the power grid.
Exactly. Small adjustments make a surprisingly big difference. Energy experts say that lowering your home thermostat by just 1 or 2 degrees Celsius can reduce your heating energy use by up to 10%. That is a massive reduction in your carbon footprint over the course of a long winter.
And technology is helping us manage this better than ever. We talked about traditional furnaces, but today many homes use smart thermostats. A smart thermostat connects to your home internet network. You can control it from an application on your smartphone.
Smart thermostats are incredible. They actually learn your daily routine. If you leave for work every day at 8 in the morning, the system will automatically lower the temperature to save energy. Before you come home at 6 in the evening, it will turn the heat back on so the apartment is cozy when you walk through the door.
You never have to worry about accidentally leaving it running again. It removes the human error. And more importantly, it removes the friction between roommates. The machine is the one setting the boundaries.
But even if you do not have a smart thermostat, simple communication goes a long way. Having a calm, polite conversation about money and comfort is a vital life skill.
Yes, and that brings us back to the language we practiced today. Do not wait until the bill arrives to have this conversation. When you move in with someone, talk about your expectations early. Establish household rules using that polite obligation grammar. Say, we need to agree on a temperature, and it would be better if we turn things off when we leave.
You'll save your money, you'll save your friendship, and you'll do a little bit of good for the environment too. It's a win for everybody.
Let's do a quick review of the core phrases you learned today. When the invoice for water and power arrives, that's your utility bill. If the price is shockingly high, it's through the roof. If you forget to turn off a machine, you leave it running. When you divide the cost with a roommate, you split the bill. And when you reduce your energy usage, you cut back on it.
We have a question for you to answer down in the comments below. How do you split the bills in your house? Is energy expensive where you live? And what is your best trick to cut back on costs?
Write your answer in the comments and try to use at least one of the new phrases. We read every single one, and it's a fantastic way to practice your writing skills.
And I have a challenge for you before you go. Take a look around your own apartment today. Try to write down 3 new house rules in English using the obligation grammar we practiced, like we must or we shouldn't. Stick them on your fridge as a daily reminder.
Thank you so much for listening and studying with us today. Keep practicing, stay warm, and we'll see you in the next episode of Everyday English Podcast. Goodbye.